Saitama, the main character of One Punch Man that has been talked a lot by so many people, mainly about how strong Saitama is. Back in March 2022, I discussed how strong he was with the sort of limited amount of knowledge we had from official material about Saitama and his level of power at the time. But now, months later, many chapters later, and more feats performed, we have a better idea on how powerful the capability is. Even Season 1, Era Saitama was still really powerful in his own right, but it was still up for debate. Season 1 Saitama, by just jumping, was able to crater the moon, which the crater was still shown to be there during the Tasamaki Fuse Psychos fight, which Saitama during this moon cratering feat had to be has been calculated to be multi-continental. Speaking about Tasamaki, in the webcomic and a Blu-ray DVD audiobook, she was confirmed to be relatively weak in comparison to Saitama. If that isn't enough for you, Genos, in a guide that's written through his point of view, stated that Saitama's power is on a whole different dimension. He also said that his power is beyond S-class heroes and a god-level threat. Tatsumaki is the same person who went to toe-to-toe with Fuse Psychos, with the same fusion being able to split continental plates with her God Blast, which is multi-continental. Saitama was actually shown to be able to completely destroy Meteoric Burst Boris's body with just a bunch of consecutive normal punches, with Boris stating multiple times in their fight via the manga and anime saying how he senses immeasurable energy, but this is probably just to hype up how strong Saitama actually is, especially during this time period, with immeasurable just meaning large or extreme to measure and not actually endless or infinite in this case. During season 1, Saitama's era, like that era, the best feat we had was him deflecting Boris's collapsing star roaring cannon. Saitama also splitting clouds as well, which would need around 2.51 exatons to do. Even Boris realized that Saitama had a lot of strength to spare. Even though Saitama used a serious punch, he still had, a lot of strength to spare, there being possibly several layers to his serious moves, quote unquote. To deflect an attack, you obviously need to produce a greater amount of force, going off of the guide from Genos' point of view, which is called the Hero Encyclopedia, by the way. Genos stated that Boris's collapsing star roaring cannon would have destroyed the Earth if it hit, which is supported by an anime statement, The Secret Compass, in which he's stated to be able to possess enough latent energy to blast away entire planets in weaker forms, and the same guide said that the collapsing star roaring cannon can destroy entire stars. Another serious punch from Saitama later on in the manga was able to do this while killing evil natural water, which is a punch that has been calculated to be around moon level. Which this isn't actually unrealistic for season 1 era Saitama, not to mention it was confirmed by Murata in a stream, the original One Punch Man webcomic, and chapter 161 of the redraw manga that Saitama could just destroy the Earth if he wanted to. There's also the fact that in a chapter cover for One Punch Man, he basically created this massive hole in the moon, which has been calculated to be large planetary. But at the same time, I know this is a manga cover, but to be fair, it's the manga covers are not the only thing they use to scale characters in One Punch Man. Now, a casual Saitama can go toe to toe with a pretty early Cosmic Fear Garu, who, not too far into their initial fight, was able to produce a gamma ray burst. The narrator actually compared this gamma ray burst to an actual one IRL. with Saitama surviving this attack. A gamma ray burst is fairly powerful due to it being able to produce the same amount of energy as a supernova. Supernovas being able to produce 10 to the 44 joules or around large star level amounts of energy. Some people called this a black hole and got it too large planetary. But later on, Saitama actually met his match against Cosmic Figaro, with Saitama surviving the radiation that Cosmic Figaro produced with his presence alone. The reason I say that Saitama met his match is due to Garo surviving and copying several serious punches. Plus, when both Saitama and Garo landed on one of Jupiter's moons, Saitama outright stated that he would let loose and go all out. Plus, it's somewhat supported by how Saitama is drawn during the majority of the fight. Like, just look at him for the majority of the fight. He's out for the kill. Plus, Saitama had to use multiple serious moves on Garo. He even did this to, to Jupiter with a serious sneeze, which has been calculated to be around large star level at most. One of these serious moves destroyed the moon they were fighting on. The moon being Io, which is slightly larger than our own moon. But the most impressive thing about Saitama's series punches is that when Ingaro went Saitama mode and matched Saitama's series punch, making a series punch squared, they caused the destruction of anywhere from a few hundred, if not a few million stars being, as I said, destroyed when blast redirected the energy. Now, this feat has been calculated by a few different people, but the main tiers of strength that everyone got range from multi-solar system level to galaxy level for about both characters, with some people getting the speed of the attack to 6 trillions of times the speed of light, which all of this is a major upgrade for the Kate Baldy, especially in comparison to his Season 1 era. During this fight, Saitama grew stronger over time, becoming so strong that he was at the start struggling with Garo, and near the end, Garo was the one struggling with him. So he was still relative to Saitama at the start of this fight. But people tend to use this for Saitama for every versus battles, and it's just cross versus battles in general. And they just say that he would just grow so strong to the point where he would be even or stronger than his opponent. But what people need to understand is that this ability within Saitama is only caused by some rage or any emotion that's similar. Even the manga shows him growing stronger with the narrator comparing the rate of growth to an upsurge of emotion. Saitama did grow so powerful that he did surpass and stop Garo eventually, though it did take a while, and Saitama did go out initially. Now, I still see people use the limiter very to support their infinite power argument, even still to this day. If you don't know, the limiter theory is a theoretical barrier that restricts the physical growth of a being, but this would be referring to someone's potential to grow physically. I say that because even though Saitama broke his limiter, he still trained, and he still initially struggled with Garo. The only reason why he defeated Garo was because he just grew in power due to his emotions. Not to say Saitama is weak, he's far from weak, but he's nowhere near strong enough to be able to one shot or one tap every fictional character out there. There's also the Universal Plus argument people use, which is when Saitama was quote unquote manipulating hyperspace portals created by Garo. But it really just depends on the translation. Some translate the portals to be hyperspace portals, as I said. Others, like Fizz, translates it to subspace. Hyperspace is just a general scientific term and sometimes doesn't really mean much unless said otherwise. And it just really depends on the franchise as well. Like some franchises, like Star Wars, has hyperspace as like a 5D thing. You know what I mean? It just really depends, unless stated otherwise. Now, in terms of speed, he is actually a pretty fast character. When he destroyed Io, that being Jupiter's moon again, he went so fast he created a full-on constellation. When Saitama was in the middle of his training, he still performed relativistic plus speed feats. Saitama was shown to be faster than Flashy Flash. At the time when the feat was performed, the only scaling we had for Flashy Flash was statements from guidebooks saying he is able to move at the speed of light, with chapter covers saying that he can move faster than the speed of light by some unknown degree. At one point, Saitama can just full on blitzed Cosmic Fear Garo, which Garo in a weaker form and a slower form when he was fighting Flashy Flash and Platinum Mast, performed this feat of creating constellations of light, which has been calculated by a million different people a million different times. It's been calculated to be like 4.33 times the speed of light by some people, with a lot of people like James Daly on TikTok getting it to 55 times the speed of light. And as I mentioned earlier about the galaxy level feat, people were able to get the speed for that feat to like 6 trillions of times the speed of light, which is extremely impressive for anyone in their own right. Now, there is an immeasurable speed argument for Saitama, since he was able to move back in time. But the thing is, this is more of an ability. Even Garo stated multiple times that it's a technique, with him referring to it as a power. You could also say it falls under BRF, or battlefield removal, which allows one opponent to force the other outside of their area of combat for a long enough period of time that the battle cannot be continued. So, at the end of the day, Saitama is fairly powerful in his own right. Him being about galaxy level at the highest so far, with massively faster than light plus levels of speed. Would Saitama get better feats? Yes, most likely performing actual universal or higher feats, especially if he fights this god character, and if God actually has some crazy feats. Until then, this is likely the highest we can get him, galaxy level, but he's still like fairly powerful in his own right.